the Green New Deal, pass Medicare for All, which is, by the way, 70% of Americans support that bill. That's a good thing that Democrats who are running for president should realize that if they want to run, they need to go what the majority of Americans go on. And the majority of Americans agree that the Green New Deal, even more Republicans, 54% of Republicans
I didn't know
believe
that.
that the Green New Deal should be passed. Um, that actually is really good. Now, that also includes roughly, I believe, like 12% of people who said they somewhat approve of it, but strongly approve section actually did much better than what they thought it would do. So adding both those up, that came out to 54%. And, even the independents are all for it as well. 61% of them believe that a Green New Deal should occur in this country. Democrats backed the bill by 86%. So, we see a lot of basically the drive of all three parties basically coming together, and basically what the thrust could occur for a Democrat candidate in the 2020 elections if they in fact do support a Green New Deal and Medicare for All could really just thrust them over the top, because people don't realize the 2020 election is going to be a hard election. It's not going to be an easy blow-off win. The Democrats definitely need to try hard in certain states to get good results. Now, in two states, I could definitely see a Democrat winning very well in, like Kamala Harris. She could win very well in Michigan because Gretchen Whitmer, who's like a corporate lover as well, like Kamala Harris could probably do well there. Now, a state that Kamala Harris would probably do easy in is probably a state like Pennsylvania as well that Trump won, because Pennsylvania has a very large African American community. And I think that's really the reason why a lot of people thought that Kamala Harris was a really good candidate to have run. And as well, Richard Ojeda dropped his candidacy as well
Yeah.
2 days ago, which was kind of sad to see that. I liked him a lot. But Julian Castro is also a really interesting candidate to see him run, throw his hat into the ring. He's a pretty interesting candidate. I'm pretty happy to actually see him run. I definitely, if he does get the nomination, he would really do well in the Hispanic communities, which is vital for a Democrat now, because we see in states like Texas and Florida, Democrats lost in some sense because they didn't actually get as much of the Hispanic vote in states like Nevada and Arizona, where the Democrats there got 68% for Kirsten Sinema, and Jackie Rosen got 66%, while Beto O'Rourke got 60%, and Bill Nelson got 52%, and Andrew Gillum got 56% of the Hispanic vote. We see that Democrats in certain states definitely did worse this year. I think that having someone like Julian Castro on the ballot as a nominee will definitely help the Democrats win in states like possibly Texas and definitely Florida. So each candidate really brings their own thing. And even a person like Tulsi Gabbard, if she were to get the nomination, now states I could see her doing good in that Trump won in 2016. I think that she could definitely probably do well in a state like Arizona, possibly, because she is really good friends with Kirsten Sinema, and she actually shares a lot of ideological views with Kirsten Sinema.
With Tulsi
And to
Gabbard.
see, yeah, Tulsi Gabbard. Now, Kirsten Sinema did in fact turn more moderate for her Senate campaign, but prior political positions of Kirsten Sinema, Tulsi Gabbard aligned with her
Yeah, she was
relatively a good
very.
amount.
Yeah, she was very, very left wing. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if Tulsi Gabbard's gonna like struggle to gain some traction because she just seems like very weird. I think to a lot of people. But
Yeah.
someone Yahoo News over the weekend was very, very strongly pointing out a possibility of a Bernie Sanders run for president in 2020, saying it's going to be announced imminently, possibly within next week. And I think a very interesting reason, according to the Yahoo News report, of why he wanted to go in and jump in for the run was that he said, according to poll numbers, he said the poll numbers were good for him, especially in Latino and African American areas. He was very encouraged with that. He said, according to the report, because that, as we know, was an area that he did struggle with, and a lot of people created that the BS Bernie bro myth around him, which was that he only appeals to white males, even though he's the leading candidate of choice for people of color. So that is very, very encouraging to see that like those people are behind him in that way, and they value someone who's real, someone who's authentic, someone who knows, someone who they can tell cares deeply about the policy issues. So yeah, what do you think of that news this week, and especially of those poll numbers? I thought were very interesting.
Oh, yeah, definitely. If Bernie Sanders runs, he is probably the strongest candidate that I can have on my list. My list right now of strong Democrat candidates goes Bernie Sanders first, Julian Castro in second. Third place would probably be Elizabeth Warren. maybe tied with second with Julian Castro.
Hmm.
Third place would probably be Kirsten Gillibrand. Fourth place would probably be maybe Kamala Harris. And I think really kind of it kind of has to see where Tulsi Gabbard does in the polling there. But I think that the person in last place right now is John Delaney. He probably has no. I don't think that he's going to be a really strong candidate to have on my list.
Yeah,
but
I think he'll definitely
Bernie,
drop out before Iowa.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, he's not going to have a chance. I think that where he would only have a chance is maybe the New Hampshire primary if Bernie doesn't run. But if Bernie runs, he'll be the strongest candidate I think that we can have run our party because he did really well amongst suburban and rural white Americans. I could actually easily see him if he gets the nomination. I could easily see him winning the general election in states like Iowa, possibly even Kansas. In states like the Midwest where Republicans have had a stronghold.
Yeah, and
For
they've been
many
really
years.
really pissed with Trump in areas like the trade war,
Yeah.
and just like kind of not really like giving back to them in the way that they should. And I think he could make a very good economic populist case and have a record to back it up that Trump simply didn't. And that's his time in office. I think there's so many effective economic points that Bernie could really push. But I think it's going to be kind of a battle between Bernie and Kamala, Kamala of the establishment, and Bernie of the Bernie wing of the party. And Elizabeth Warren will kind of be a compromise midpoint in between for those two candidates if something goes wrong. So I think it's probably tied for first in terms of most likely candidates to win the nomination is going to be Kamala, and it's going to be Bernie Sanders. And then I guess the backup plan is going to be Elizabeth Warren for if something happens. I think she's the next best shot. That's where I think I stand on that. Was kind of surprised about your kind of a pick of Kirsten Gillibrand because I think she really kind of alienated the party. I don't think anyone on the left has any kind of incentives to support her because she is very tied to Wall Street. She's had a very strong right-wing past, which kind of suggests she's a little bit of a fraud. And she also pissed off a lot of the people in the Democratic establishment by going after Bill Clinton and going after Al Franken and getting him out of there, which especially Al Franken made a lot of people mad, both in the kind of liberal base and the establishment. I mean, it's not like Al Franken was like the next super comedian candidate to take on Trump. They thought maybe even he would run for president. So still, now he's out of things. He's been kind of Me Too'd on that, but still, very interesting to see what happens there. All right, we're going to skip past very quickly a story about the possibility of Mick Mulvaney warning that Trump wants to will shut down the government. Doesn't want to, but will shut down the government if he does not get his wall. So it's something worth watching over the next 3 weeks. But we're going to turn our attention now, finally, for our last story of the day, to Davos, the Davos conference this past week, where really some incredible stuff went down over about Michael Dell and this kind of very interesting exchange that took place. I'll play it for you in a minute, but before we do, just to give you an idea of what happened, some of the crazy things that took place. So elite financiers attending the World Economic Forum are worried about 70% tax rate on earnings above $10 million proposed by the freshman representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez of New York. It's scary, Scott Menard, the global chief investment officer for the $265 billion Guggenheim Partners, said in an interview on the sidelines of the event. So I mean, like, it's so incredible that like just a girl from New York coming in, getting elected, making these ideas overwhelmingly popular with the Democratic base, proposing them in ways that they would never been proposed before, and now they're scaring some of the most powerful people, the richest and most wealthy people in the world. It's really incredible when you put your mind to it how fast this change could happen, and it's really encouraging that like these people are finding this kind of much fear in it. But not only are they scared, they're really like relatively uninformed on this, James. But I do want to, James, obviously very informed because he's just informed on everything. But what's your reaction to kind of 70% tax rate before we play the clip of what went down over at Davos that made Michael Dell look pretty dumb, as well as that moderator?
Oh, I think that it's actually a really good idea, actually, a tax ban that Ocasio-Cortez has put up for discussion, because I think that what this bill actually really brings is the allowance for us to actually be able to pay for things that we might not be able to have paid before. The tax bill is probably one of the most best tax bills I could probably see. Excuse me, tax ideas I could probably ever think of that is actually probably one of the best ones that actually will work really well. But not only, these people are worried about it because of how much money they make, but at the end of the day, they're not
Way
going to
over
be
10
losing.
million.
Yeah, they're not going to be losing a lot of money off of it because also they're already making too much. They have more than enough money to live. People live off of $20,000 salaries, yet these guys are making such a big deal when their
We're in
salary
the
might be
United
dropped to a couple hundred grand. You know, the fact that they're really that worried about it really, I mean, personally, to me, to tell you the truth, I really honestly don't really care what they're worried about because they already have enough money to live. They're
Yeah,
living
screw
fine
them.
and they already have enough money in savings so that if they could be not making a salary for the rest of their life, they would be well off for the rest of
Yeah,
their life because
exactly, exactly.
a lot of these guys save their money like crazy. So
Yeah, they definitely
honestly,
don't
I
put it
don't
back in the
really,
economy.
yeah, no, I honestly really don't care about their opinion at the end of the day. And I think that her tax plan is probably some of the best I've ever seen so far. And I think that when it's passed, the American people are going to definitely be happy to see it's working for once.
Yeah, it's definitely some pretty high praise there for you, James. But here is this. First, you're going to hear the woman who's the moderator, and she's going to ask the CEO of Dell Computers, Michael Dell, a question. And this MIT professor, James, I don't know if you've heard this. This is the clip from at Davos. Have you heard this?
Oh yeah, I heard this.
All right,
Actually,
so
I
yeah,
watched it this morning. Yeah.
Yeah, so you know what's happening here. I want to play this very quickly for the viewers. I don't know if you're going to be able to hear it. I don't think you are. But this is, yes, the moderator talks, then Michael Dell talks, then an MIT professor by the name of Eric Bjorn-Jolfsen slaps him down here. Take a listen.
In the United States, there's been a call by Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez to tax people earning over $10 million at a 70% tax rate. The current top rate in the United States is 37%. Michael Dell, do you support this?
I don't think it would help the growth of the U.S. economy.
Oh, that's it.
And so, yeah, before she asked him, Michael Dell, do you support this? There's a video clip here, cut out like the uproarious laughter that they had in the room, but the possibility of a 70% tax rate just makes you want to do it more because just the greed of these people are absolutely unstoppable here. Here we go. I can do this clip here.
And can you say a little bit more about why you don't think it would?
Well, name a country where that's worked, ever.
So about 70% tax rate.
From about the 1930s through about the 1960s, the tax rate averaged about 70%. At times it was up as high as 95%.
Oops.
And those were actually pretty good years for growth.
So pretty much, if you missed it, the tax rate here. Actually, that was kind of a bad clip. We'll play a better clip for you in a minute. But pretty much, I don't know if you get the full idea. But pretty much, what happened was, so the moderator asked him the question about it, and they cut that clip up badly. That's annoying. But still, yeah, here we go. We'll play this. Play it for you. The moderator also looking pretty dumb.
There are growing calls to address these inequalities, particularly the wage inequality, with more taxes. In particular, in the United States, there's been a call by Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez to tax people earning over $10 million at a 70% tax rate. The current top rate in the United States is 37%. Michael Dell, do you support this?
See, there's the laughter I'm talking about.
Wow. Well, look, I mean, my wife and I set up a foundation about 20 years ago, and we would have contributed quite a bit more than a 70% tax rate on my income, on my annual income.
It's a very laughable idea.
And I feel much more comfortable with our ability as a private foundation to allocate those funds than I do giving them to the government.
All right.
So no, I'm not supportive of that.
Well, Keith,
and I don't think it would help the growth of the U.S. economy.
Oh, that's interesting. And can you say a little bit more about why you don't think it would?
Well, name a country where that's worked, ever.
United States.
Briefly, in the 80s.
No. From about the 1930s through about the 1960s, the tax rate averaged about 70%. At times it was up as high as 95%. And those were actually pretty good years for growth. So I don't have a strong opinion on that proposal. A lot of the devil is in the details, but I think it's there's actually a lot of economics that